my way. What can I do to make this dream come true? 'Cause if you just knew that I really, really love you, and if you could see my view, we could be together whole life through. 'Cause you got my head in the clouds, I just wanna fly high. This running mind of mine, baby, if you see the smooth dance floor, and I just wanna dance through the night, this running mind of mine, I see you look my way. Get up and walk like there's nothing to see.
Folks, we are back as the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. I'm your host, Trellis Williams, and we are glad to be with you once again. This week, look, a lot of shakeups in the standings, particularly on the boys' side with the counselors taking a couple of losses. So there's a lot to talk about on that one. We'll talk about that today. We also have Coach Lewis Coker of the Meridian Flyers joining us. He will be with us here today. And, well, listen, we got a great show for you tonight. Things are really heating up. This is the last full week before Christmas break, and we've got a lot of basketball to talk about. I'm Trellis Williams. The MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show begins right now. And we appreciate you joining us. I'm your host, Trellis Williams. This is the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button to the TSJW Network YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button right now. We've got some games to talk about from this past week, and we're going to hop into them right now, but we definitely want you to hit that subscribe button. Also, turn those notifications on. Like and share with anyone who'd be interested in MSAHA basketball coverage. So, this past week we had multiple games. The Muddy River Counselors played 4 nights of basketball for the Counselors. It's going to be a lot about them. First, it was on December 11th, the Thursday. The Muddy River Counselors took on the Jackson Victors in Byram, where the Victors hosted the Counselors. The Victors had not beaten the Counselors in 18U since February of 2022 in the tournament. And so that was 3.5 years, nearly 4 years since the last time the Victors prevailed, and they did. At home, 70-58 over the Muddy River Counselors. There were some guys out for both teams. For the Victors, they played without Andy Miller, who is a top scorer for them. He was out with illness. The Counselors were missing Ike Brown is one of their guys that a rotation guy for their team. He was out with illness as well, so you had an interesting game there. Victors hosted. They get the win 70-58. Big game from Asa Holden, who finished with 22 points, and the Victors were able to get a big victory over the Counselors. This was the Counselors' first conference loss of the season. They started off 6-0. And it was at the hands of the crosstown rivals in the Jackson Victors, and so the Victors win that one 70-58. Counselors were back at it again on Saturday on the road, once again taking on the PCA Paladins, and they dropped this one too. So 2 games in a row, they lost this one by 18 to PCA, 75-57. The Counselors beat PCA the first time. The 2 teams took each other on. The Counselors won 66-53. And PCA came back with a vengeance. They smelled blood in the water after the Counselors lost that one to the Victors on the road. PCA hosted this one. They hit 14 three-pointers as a team, and they get the win 75-57 over the Counselors in that one. So here you go. The Counselors hit a little skid here. We're going to talk about how this has an effect on the standings, because for the Counselors, they're now not in the position where they can just win out and just easily get into the tournament. They need some help, or not into the tournament, to be the number one seed. They need some help to be the number one seed now, so be interested looking forward there. But the Counselors lost to PCA 75-57, so Counselors Paladins split the season series this year. Then we see on Monday the Counselors back at it again on the road. Counselors really hitting the road very hard right now. They played some of their home games early on in the season, and this one we're going to talk a little girls right now. So look, these right now are the teams that are looked at as the top two teams in the league. Technically, according to the standings, Hattiesburg, technically is number 2 right now because they're 6-2 in conference, while the Counselors are 4-2. But the Counselors beat Hattiesburg in their matchup. So this is right now the kind of the top two teams in the league. And the first time the two teams play, we talked about it last week, Laurel hammered the Counselors 70-21. Pretty shocking there. Not shocking that Laurel won, but just winning by nearly 50 points is pretty surprising there. At B Hall on the road, this time the Counselors get up for this ball game. Laurel still wins though, 47-34. The Laurel Lady Nighthawks get their second win, complete the season sweep of the Counselors, but the Counselors definitely, obviously, a much better performance. Still kind of struggling to put the ball in the basket at times, but defensively they did a lot better, and it was a very good game, very competitive game. Laurel kind of went up early, and they kept the lead the whole time, but the Counselors tried to work their way back, kind of hung out in the single digits for a long time. But then Laurel pulled away at the end, getting the 47-34 win over the Muddy River Counselors. Possible preview of the championship ball game, but we'll see if Hattiesburg will have something to say about that. We're going to also, in the boys game that day, the Counselors finally get back in the win column, win their 7th conference game, win their 10th overall game of the season. They beat Laurel 69-52. So this one, Counselors were able to get back into form. Good game for Michael Williams, finishing with 34 points. You also had Isaac Viverka putting in 15, I do believe. So a good game for the Counselors. And playing against the Nighthawks. Nighthawks are a tough team with a lot of size. So Laurel's got a lot of size on their side. And so it's a tough team for the Counselors to play because the Counselors do have a height advantage over a lot of teams, but they do not against Laurel. They're good shot blockers and all the like. So a tough game there, but they win 69-52 over Laurel. Then we see last night, we see Meridian and Hattiesburg kind of going away from Counselors games right now. We see Meridian and Hattiesburg take each other on. On the girls' side, Hattiesburg gets a win by 25 points. And now we've talked about Meridian a little bit. They lost 7 seniors from last year's team. And so they're kind of in rebuilding mode here. Hattiesburg, really, they've got some good tools. They're a pretty young team, Hattiesburg is, but they do have the tools in terms of height, in terms of shooting and ball handling. And so they're able to get the win by 25 points over the Meridian Flyers. Now looking on the boys' side, Hattiesburg winning again, this time by 33. The Forerunners beat the Flyers 67-34. Now, obviously, Meridian is without Cooper Franklin. We're going to end up talking to Coach Lewis Coker here today, kind of how he views his team, what he's trying to work his team through. But, Hattiesburg is pretty healthy. They're a good shooting team. Obviously, they're able to defend the Flyers pretty well in this ball game. They win the game by 33 points. They complete the season sweep of Meridian, as this one was a home game for the Hattiesburg Forerunners. They get the win 67-34. Hattiesburg's got some big games coming up this week. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Also, last night we saw the Counselors back at home again. Of course, they played out in Hines Utica the first time they had ever played out there, but it was a home game for them, and they get the victors back. They win by over 20 points, 72-51. Counselors pretty much dominate the victors in this game at home, get back into form. So Michael Williams finishing with 35 points, had a real good ball game. The Counselors all around doing well. Isaac Viverka, Mark Dillon scoring the basketball. Mark Johnson on the defensive side of the ball, as well as Hilton Tompkins, a presence inside. They were able to do a better job defending Asa Holden in the ball game as well. He went off the first game that led the victors to victory. And this time, the counselors able to handle the victors 72-51 and put a lot more points on the board as well. Counselors back to their winning ways, 8-2 conference record now for the counselors, and they still have big games to go. But one thing about the counselors is that they've played PCA twice. Now they've played victors twice. They played Laurel twice. And so a lot of their conference games are actually behind them for the counselors, and they get back to winning. And this was a big one. Big test here. A team that you had just lost to just a week ago, and getting this win 72-51. The counselors win that one. So, folks, look, we're about to be joined by Coach Lewis Coker of the Meridian Flyers. We really appreciate him joining us here today. Coach, thank you for joining us on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show.
All right, thank you for having me, Trellis.
So, look, Coach, you're leading a talented group there with the Meridian Flyers. You know, you come into the season knowing that you really do have a shot at the MSAHA crown. Now, I know that you guys have lost 5 conference games so far. You know, some games have come down to the end where you had close losses, particularly the Victors game early, first Victors game, and then the Counselors game. You had 2 really close losses. Then you take some lumps from PCA and Hattiesburg, but then you lose Cooper Franklin for a little while, and so now you're not quite your full self, but you hope to get them back by tournament time. Kind of take us through the season and how you have viewed your team and how they've played.
Well, Charles, they've played well as expected. They're just come up short a few times on some conference games. I think I guess Muddy River and the first Jackson game, maybe 2 points with Jackson and maybe 3 or 4 with Muddy River. So, I mean, just played some really good basketball. We actually, we're able to overcome the Victors a week or so ago with that win. Played really good in the tournament. I think we played I believe it was Faulkner, who is an extremely fast team, if I remember, and just a very solid team. We played them extremely well, and a lot of those latter games have been without Cooper, and it is, you do miss those 25 to 30 points a game that he can usually put in, but I really do like the way that our guys have kind of come together and played more as a team and kind of just played, just basic basketball and win and do it, play them well in some areas that we're really not used to doing, because we're used to, if Brody can get hot, or Cooper's going to be shooting his threes, and you kind of live by the 3-pointer when you got a couple of guys that get hot like that. But when you're missing your sharpshooter, it is it's kind of been fun to actually go back to some of the basics: post up play, driving and short jump shots, and things like that. I think. I was telling my guys the other day, the win against Jackson a week or so ago, I think we maybe hit 2 threes that game and won with nothing but just, post plays and short jump shots and free throws. So those have come up real critical and a good time for us. So, but do hope to get Cooper back. I think he is walking without his boot now. So, but we're still not going to chance it. I think he's still a little sore. So we're just going to let him ride it out through Christmas and hopefully have him back, at the 1st of January.
That's right, and we see that you guys have one matchup before Christmas break, which will be against Scott County tomorrow night. So I know that you have that one. Mm-hmm. But kind of moving forward a little bit, Coach, what are you telling your guys right now? Because, you're at a point in time where you're not going to get a great seed in the league just because of circumstances. But the thing is, and I know, Coach, because I've seen your team play, that you have a very dangerous team in terms of the league and where you guys can finish. What are you telling your guys? Because really, the seeding is cool and everything, but in that tournament, we all play on a neutral floor, other than Macomb. I guess it's their home gym, but everybody else is playing on a neutral floor there at the end. And so it's really about playing well at that time.
Right. And, just telling them, which we've been preaching to them for a few years now, which I've kind of had the same squad coming up, and now I have a heavy senior group, and been telling them for a few years now that, it's just the basic stuff. I feel like every coach probably tells their team this, but just, boxing out, rebound. If you win the rebound battle, you'll likely win the game, most of the time, and just control the ball. Whoever the team who has the most rebounds and has the ball for the majority of the game is usually going to win. So just, again, just those basic things. And if we can play, now I know we did have a hiccup with Hattiesburg. I guess Hattiesburg just kind of has our number this year, but that's okay. We're going to try to bounce back from that. But overall, since we've missed Cooper, we've played pretty strong and pretty well, considering the gap he left. So I hope we keep that momentum going, and then we add him back to the roster. That'll just be an even much more of a threat, going into the latter half of the season and into the tournament. So looking forward to that.
That's for sure. And kind of talk about this as well. I know that your son Brody has done well. He just got his 1,000th career point here. I believe it was last night. I think I'm correct on that, against Hattiesburg. So congratulations to him. While I'm thinking about it, also congratulations to Sean Davis on Macomb. I know he got his 1,000th point just the other day as well. But Brody was able to accomplish that. You're coaching him, and he is a big vocal leader on the team, big leader on the team as well. Kind of talk about that father-son relationship and how it goes into coaching them on the court as well.
Yeah, sometimes it can be stressful for sure, but we do get to spend a lot of time together, and it is an enjoyable time with him. We do get to slip down to the gym a lot at night and shoot some, just he and I, and just talk through some things. So from a personal standpoint and relationship standpoint, it's been great, and it's been fun coaching him. I talked to somebody, I think it was Bob Cranford from Laurel. He was talking about coaching his daughters in soccer some years ago, and just talking about the fine line you kind of have to navigate some through that, being a dad along with being their coach. So, but it's been a joy, and I really enjoyed it these last few years, and am enjoying it a lot this season as well, especially as he's grown into an older player and just kind of one of the leaders on the team. So it's been fun. So.
Yeah, so you had that game. That's awesome. I know that you had that game against the Victors just a week ago. And the Victors are a very good team, and they're a contender in the league this year. And you guys were able to get a big win against them at home there. How big was that for the team's just morale and confidence? Because you're in a period of time where you're trying to keep building and stuff, but you don't have your full strength team right now, and you plan on having a full strength team later on, but you're able to get a win like that against a team that turned around and beat the Counselors 2 days later. Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was a huge win for us, just in the game, and then it was a huge win just mentally for our guys too. A win like that, and I think we may have beaten Jackson one time in the last couple of years, but we've always been fairly evenly matched. But we have lost some big ones to them. But it was a big win, and you mentioned Asa Holder. He's usually a heavy offensive player for them. It doesn't seem like he ever misses, but we just tried to defend him hard, and knew that he was kind of a key guy that we had to kind of put the brakes on a little bit there, and that was a big help. So. But yeah, and I think just our overall, especially if you add Cooper back into the lineup, our top 4 or 5 guys, I feel like can really play with anybody. But as any coach, I'm sure knows this, it's just getting them all to play as a team and together. That makes such a world of difference. It really does. So.
Yeah, for sure, Coach. Listen, we appreciate you joining us on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show, Coach.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me, Trellis.
Absolutely. That's Coach Lewis Coker of the Meridian Flyers, and always good to have him on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. And they're with the Meridian Flyers. And again, I told him just then, I'm going to tell you guys once again, very, very dangerous team moving forward. When all those guys are on the same page and they're healthy and they're shooting well, it's a hard team to beat, and they've got some height as well. So, team to look out for. Right now, not doing the greatest in the standings, but, really you just want to be full strength there in February. But, folks, I want to shout out to our sponsor, which is Take One Media, the official marketing agency of the TSJW Network. If you are a business owner or an entrepreneur, you're trying to scale your business, you should go to Take One Media. TakeOneMedia.com/TSJW. TakeOneMedia.com/TSJW, and the official marketing agency of the TSJW Network is Take One Media, and you should give them a look. But folks, we appreciate you joining us for the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. Hit that subscribe button, also like and share. with anyone who would be interested in MSAHA basketball coverage. All right, so moving forward to this next week, tomorrow night, we've got some games. We actually have multiple matchups throughout the league. We got 3 different matchups, actually. But first, just what we alluded to just a little bit earlier, we have Scott County and Meridian. And on the girls' side, we're going to talk about that first. Both teams winless in conference, okay? Neither team has gotten a win yet. And so we're going to finally see these 2 teams face off. And who's going to get the win is the question. Now, I've seen both teams. Meridian has a team of a lot of players and able-bodied players who can play some defense and things like that. Scott County doesn't have very many players, but they do have a couple of girls who can score a little bit on their team. So it'll be interesting to see these 2 teams line up and play each other and how that's going to go, but that is tomorrow night. And then we look at the boys. Obviously, Meridian heavy favorites here. They're 4-5 in conference right now. They're looking to get back to 500. They're heavy favorites over Scott County, who is yet to get a win, and this one will be in Hickory. Now, another matchup we're going to see, Macomb and PCA. This one will be down in Lacombe as PCA will be hosting this game. These 2 teams played just a couple of weeks ago, and PCA won, but they won 65-50, and it was close late before PCA was able to pull away. And so, obviously, Macomb can compete. They've got Sean Davis on their team who has a lot of length, a lot of height, can mess with you defensively. They also have some other guys who can score the basketball a little bit. PCA, you get them down there in Lacombe, they shoot the lights out. And we saw that in the game against the Muddy River Counselors. And so going to their place, it's a tough place to win. And so PCA definitely the favorites here, but we'll see how Macomb does. These 2 teams are actually not very far away. I think they're about an hour away, maybe even 45 minutes, so not very far away there between these 2 teams. But then we got another matchup here. We got Hattiesburg and Jackson. Now, this one is a really interesting one. I think this might even be, well, I don't know. It could be game of the week, could not be. I don't know. But it's a possible game of the week contender here. Victor's back at home in Byram hosting the Hattiesburg Forerunners. And the Forerunners right now are 7-1 in conference. So Hattiesburg technically is the number 1 seed at the moment. And they're taking on the Victors on the road. Victors 6-3 in conference. These 2 teams have not played yet. I've seen both of these teams, but I can't even put my finger on it and tell you who would win this game because I have no idea. I really don't. Hattiesburg's got a good shooting team. They can score. They got Keller Russell and Tafari Edwards who really can score the basketball. Victors have guys who can score as well. So it should be an interesting ball game. But it'll be their first meeting. And so it will be in Byram where the Jackson Victors will host it. And so it is Hattiesburg and Jackson there. And then on Friday, we're going to see the Muddy River Counselors take on the Hattiesburg Forerunners. This one will be down in Hattiesburg. This will be a rematch of the first ball game between the 2 teams. First time the 2 teams played, the Counselors won 83-65. But that was the big game for Sir Michael Williams where he had 50 points in that one. And it actually just kind of carried the Counselors into getting a blowout win. They were up by 30 at one point in time in the game. But the thing is with Hattiesburg, though, they're a very good shooting team. That game started off being 14-4 in the direction of the Forerunners. So I'm interested to see. Interested to see how it goes down there at First Presbyterian. Because Hattiesburg probably does better at their home gym, I would assume. But look, they've won every other conference game. So it'll be interesting to see Muddy River and Hattiesburg. But that's the boys' side. Also looking at the girls' side, this is a big one here. As far as girls are concerned, the Counselors, they have 2 conference losses now. They've played their 2 games against Laurel. They're able to improve by 36 points between the first time and the second time. So they're looking a little better after last game. The first time Muddy River Hattiesburg played, the Counselors won 58-39, a 19-point win for the Counselors there over the Forerunners the first time. Hattiesburg trying to avenge their loss here at home. Hattiesburg, just like I said earlier, they have shooting, they have ball handling, they have height. And so, but they are a young team. They're a young team. And so they're going to take on the Counselors there in girls. And then we see on Saturday, last game we're going to talk about, we got PCA and Laurel. This game will be at Southeastern Baptist College. I do believe the Paladins won the first meeting 66-20, but Laurel has played well as the season's gone along, okay? And so I think Laurel will do better. I also think they'll do better playing on their home court against PCA, so I expect the Nighthawks to do better. PCA is definitely the favorites in this game, as Laurel has yet to get a win over a conference team other than Scott County this year. And so they're looking for that. They're going to be hosting PCA on Saturday there. But, folks, that will wrap up our matchups for this week on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. Let's take a look at the standings, look at the girls first. On the girls' side, you see Laurel number 1, and they're firmly number 1, and they're going to be number 1, folks. I think they've locked it up pretty much. Not mathematically, but really. They've locked it up. They are 7-0 in conference. They only have 3 more conference games. So mathematically, they haven't gotten it yet, because if they lost all the rest of their conference games, they wouldn't get it probably. But that I just don't see that happening. Moving forward, they have a game against Hattiesburg, as well as, I think, a game against Macomb and Meridian. So I think those are the 3 games they have left in this season. So Laurel 7-0, going to get the number 1 seed again. Hattiesburg sitting at the number 2 right now with a 6-2 conference record. Now, we have to wait till Friday, because obviously if the Counselors win that one, they will surely drop below Muddy River. And the Counselors would be the slight favorite since they won the first time. And so head-to-head matchups matter in the standings, and the Counselors haven't played Scott County again, and they still have Scott County, Meridian, and Macomb to play again. After Hattiesburg, those will be their last 3 conference games. And you got Macomb sitting at 2-4, with Meridian and Scott County following them up at 0-5 and 0-6. But one of those teams next week on our show, one of those teams will have a conference win, folks. So that'll be interesting to see there. Now let's look at the boys' standings for our league. Number 1 now is Hattiesburg, sitting at a 7-1 conference record. Of course, their one loss is to the Counselors, and they haven't played them for the second time, so we'll see that. And they've got a big week this week, taking on the Victors and the Counselors. So we'll see how they come out of this week. They're 7-1. You got Muddy River there with an 8-2 conference record at the number 2 spot. PCA, if PCA is able to win out, they will get the number 1 seed, as they're 5-1 with 1 loss. And so even though Muddy River is ahead of them right now, just because of how many games they've played, how many games they've won, as opposed to how many they've lost. So that's why Muddy River is ahead of PCA right now, even though the Counselors have 1 more loss than PCA. But PCA is going to end up catching up in conference games in a little bit. They're at number 3. Then you got Jackson at number 4, and it seems like that's kind of where Jackson's going to be. The way that Jackson can get up above that number 4 spot is that they have PCA 1 more time, and they have Hattiesburg twice. If they're able to somehow, some way win all 3 of those games, then they will move ahead for sure. They've already played the 2 games against the Counselors, and they got 1 of them, which gave them a legitimate shot at the top echelon in the conference. They did suffer that loss to Meridian, which kind of put them back a little bit. They sit at 6-3 in conference. Tupelo's 2-2. They kind of sit there right in the middle. They haven't played a conference game in a long time, so they're still kind of right there at 2-2. Meridian 4-5. Then you see Macomb 2-6 with the 7 spot. Laurel 2-8. Scott County 0-8. Laurel still looking for that first, big-time conference win. They took a loss to Macomb early in the season. Macomb, I believe that they have 2 wins over Scott County and Laurel, so they're looking for other wins as well moving forward. But, folks, that will wrap up our show. This is the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. I'm your host, Trellis Williams. We appreciate you joining us every week. It is on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m., a week from tonight, though, will be Christmas Eve, so we will not be doing the show on Christmas Eve. We possibly might do it before Christmas Eve. We won't be doing it on Christmas Eve, but we might skip next week, but we will see. But generally speaking, we got Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. right here on the TSJW Network. Appreciate Nettie Williams for producing our show live here. And I'm your host, Trellis Williams. And until next time, we out.